What's up, everybody? And today we're here to talk about that most dreaded of macronutrients, carbs. If you don't know, my name is John Oakes. I'm a weight loss coach. I lost 200 pounds and I'm here to help you lose any amount of weight you want to lose. I've been posting a series of videos all about how to set up easy, flowy weight loss and keep it going consistently. Be sure to check out those other videos. And in the last few videos, we've been breaking down each of the main macronutrients, protein, fats, and carbs, how much you should be getting, which ones to eat, which ones to seek out, and giving you the real nuggets of truth about it so that you can kind of forget the rest and not stress out about it. Because ultimately, this is all to help you make better decisions that keep you in an appropriate caloric deficit for your needs, because that's the bottom line and that's the main driver of your fat loss. So today is a bit of a controversial topic, even though it really shouldn't be. So carbohydrates, these are our sugars, our starches, our fiber. And fiber is not really digestible by the body. It has implications for health, but not so much for fat loss directly. So we're gonna kind of skip over that today. We're gonna focus on mostly sugars and starches, with the main takeaway being that you can think of them just as carbs. And in most cases, you can think of carbs simply as calories. So to start off with the big question, no, carbs are not bad. Carbs are not bad for weight loss. Carbs are not bad for weight management. Carbs are not bad in the morning. Carbs are not bad in the evening. There is individual variability with how we tolerate anything in life. But that being said, a lot of people start dieting with this carb aversion, and it gets in their head really easy. And then anything that goes wrong with their diet, it's like, oh no, it's because I ate an apple. No, that's almost certainly not the case. And I understand the carbophobia because I got taken in by it. I have a lot of appreciation for low carb diets. I think they're great in a lot of ways, and I did have some success with them. But they followed along this carbohydrate insulin model of fat loss and fat gain and weight issues, kind of explaining all of our systemic generational issues with obesity according to carbohydrate intake. And it is true that people eat more carbs today than they have previously. We eat more refined foods than we have previously, and we get this sense that we're not as healthy, and we know that some of the foods we eat are not as healthy. A lot of the foods we eat are not as healthy. We know that the rise in processed foods has come with societal implications for our public health. Researchers had very good reason to investigate that as the driver of weight gain. Other researchers were pointing out from the beginning that people also eat more now than they did previously. And processed foods and the proliferation of carbohydrate-dense foods, sugar-dense foods, calorie-dense foods has also risen, and that is the main explanatory factor in our public health degradation. So the carbohydrate insulin model of weight gain goes like this. You eat carbs, it raises your insulin, which makes it impossible for your body to burn fat and causes your body to store calories or carbs that you eat as fat. While this is true in a sort of back of the napkin sense, people sort of get that, freshmen in college on their second day of biology class, they kind of get to that level of understanding about human physiology, and then they close the book and they're like, I'm an expert, right? That is roughly how insulin works. It is the garage door opener to our cells, and it helps transport nutrients of all kinds into our cells, not just fat cells, but also into our muscle cells, into our organ cells. Insulin goes up, it goes down. It's part of our daily cycles. We can go through these cycles many times a day. Avoiding insulin does not stop your body from ingesting and metabolizing the calories you eat. It's just the guy at the door, okay? It's not the one deciding how many people to let into the club. If you shovel a bunch of food in your face, insulin is gonna help you store that in your muscles, in your fat. And if you're in a caloric deficit, there's no amount of insulin that's gonna magically make energy appear in your body. It can only work with what you give it. A part of the anti-carb crowd would say back in the day, well, what about the glycemic index? Because if you eat a high glycemic index food, that's gonna spike your insulin. And right, we hear just like these terms like spiking your insulin. Oh my God, you're gonna get spiked. Like there's gonna be a spike inside of you. It's like, what are we even talking about? Like, insulin goes up, yes, and it goes up more sharply when you eat high glycemic index foods. That's true. So what? In a calorie-controlled environment, right? So if I feed you 2,000 calories a day of bananas versus 2,000 calories a day of tomatoes, which are very low GI, you will probably in most cases lose weight from the sheer amount of diarrhea. But on a fat loss level, these diets will yield the same result. If the same amount of calories were burned, both diets will yield the same result. And this also goes for the most dreaded carb of all, sugar, right? The highest GI that ever GI, the perfect score of 100 on the GI chart. Sugar. When sugar is eaten, the calories aren't treated by the body any differently than other types of calories. You know, when I was first dieting, when I was a very young man, I didn't know jack about nutrition. I just knew that if I ate less, the scale went down, right? I would eat, I forget what I ate for breakfast in those days. Probably cereal a lot of the time, and then I might have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch, and then just try to eat smaller portions at dinner. I mean, my diet was probably heavily skewed towards carbs with very few fats and very little protein. I mean, I might have been on 70% of my calories coming from carbs. But those diets worked because I was putting myself in a caloric deficit and sustaining that over time. Now, I didn't realize some of the drawbacks of such a low protein approach. Probably wasn't best for my metabolism and my lean mass, but you know, I was 18 or 19 at the time when I first started doing this. So there's a very anabolic, teenage male environment that's somewhat protective of your lean mass. Still not ideal. And this was my normal fashion of dieting up until my late 20s. I really didn't learn the power of protein until much later. So this brings up the question of fruit. Is fruit forbidden? Is fruit gonna cause you to gain fat? Equated for calories? No. You can eat fruit. Okay. Here's the thing about fruit and the glycemic index. If you find that eating foods that are lower on the glycemic index, foods that have a lower response in blood sugar, and some people report feeling less hungry when they choose these foods. I'm often this way. I've also been experimenting this year with higher glycemic index foods like cereal, white rice, bread. And I've seen this to be true, that it's really about how much I eat rather than exactly what type of calories I'm eating. And I have very mixed feelings about heavily processed foods like cereal, but experimenting with higher carb approaches without getting in my head at all about, the way people have demonized different types of carbs and the way that still kind of exists in my head. I really found that fruit it really gets a bad rap, and I've given it a bad rap in the past, and I've excluded it from my diet needlessly. If you go by the glycemic index, yes, fruit has fructose, and fructose is chemically fairly similar to the glucose that our body breaks it down into. However, fructose, it's also bound to fiber, so your body has to digest the fructose and separate it from the fiber, which is indigestible, to get to it before it can send it to the liver, and then it's a delayed response either way. So fruit, for a couple reasons, fruit is not a fast digesting carb. I used to think that if I ate an apple, it was gonna hit my system really fast, and that's just not the case. Fruit is a great choice if you're looking for a source of carbohydrates and energy that is going to have that steady trickle of energy being dropped into your system rather than a huge spike that you might get from, the dreaded spike, that you might get from a bowl of ice cream or giant bowl of Fruity Pebbles or something. Do I advise people to seek out sugar, or some of the more high glycemic index fruits like pineapple? No, I don't, because it's just for practical reasons. We only have so many calories to spend in the day. We want to spend those on foods that are filling, that keep us full, keep our appetite regulated. And for that purpose, the glycemic index does seem to help a lot of people. I still stick by it most of the time. If I want to eat a carb source that I want to stick with me for a long time, I will try to choose, your beans, sweet potatoes, fruits, over very sugary or processed foods. So to clarify, if you're in a caloric deficit, which carbohydrates you choose isn't going to have an impact on your fat loss. However, if you're in a caloric deficit, you want to be smart about the carbohydrates you're choosing and making sure that they are serving your energy needs, your appetite needs, to help you stay on your program and enjoy it. And like I've said in other videos, we're not looking to swap out all of your high sugar foods or processed foods for whole foods right at the start, right? This is something you can keep in your back pocket, and when you're looking to take the next step to ensure progress, when you're saying, I want to feel better, I want to have more energy for my workouts, I want to encourage consistent progress on the scale, so I'm going to swap out this donut for sweet potatoes, any whole food carbohydrate source is going to be lower GI than a pastry item, for instance. This is something you can adjust over time, just as needed. Before we finish up, let's talk about quantity of carbohydrates for fat loss. When we set up our macros, if we're going to take that approach or not, we still want to ensure a baseline of protein for reasons I talked about in that video 2 videos ago. So let's take the example of a 200-pound male, or a male who is 350 pounds, but he knows his goal weight is around 200, or his lean mass is around 200. Close enough. He's going to shoot for 200 grams of protein a day. That is 800 calories a day. Next, he's going to shoot for a minimum of 0.3 grams of fat per pound of body weight. So 60 grams of fat, 60 times 9 is 540. So we're up to 1,340 calories for this 200-pound male, or an overweight male whose goal weight is 200 pounds. Now, if he's looking to set his calorie target at 2,600 calories a day, he's got, 1,260 calories left over. So 1,260 calories is 315 grams of carbs a day. That's quite a lot. So basically, you find the baseline of protein and fats that you want to ensure in your diet, and you can fill up the rest of the calories with carbs if you like. A lot of people find that going higher on protein or higher on fat makes them feel better. They don't need that many carbs to feel good, and maybe they feel better on fewer carbs. Play with it. This is your diet. You can and should experiment with your macros. And if you don't want to deal with macros at all, just make sure you're getting your protein and then watch your calories and you're good. And when it comes to making adjustments to ensure diet progress, to ensure progress on the scale, because of the way we've set it up, when it comes time to delete calories, you want to look for things more in the optional side, in the carbs, right? Not because deleting carbs is gonna magically make you lose weight. It's just that we need that baseline of protein. We need that baseline of fat. You can delete fats down to the baseline. You can delete protein down to the baseline. But beyond that, deleting carbs is the obvious choice when you're making those small, careful adjustments to ensure progress and prevent plateaus. And again, as I said in previous videos, we don't do that willy-nilly. We really hold on to those adjustments and only make them as needed. If this video gave you value, please hit the like button and leave a comment for the algorithm. It really helps other people find these videos. If you're looking for no-cost support, you can join us on the Facebook group at Lose Weight with John. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, you can email me at johnoakscoaching@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.